Hello, you're tuning in to VNA News Daily Bulletin. Coming up next, we have your top stories. Vietnam honors Russian court leader for boosting bilateral judicial cooperation. Vietnam highlights role of United Nations Human Rights Council. White Book on Trade and Investment in Vietnam in 2016 is published. State President Trương Tấn Sang presented a friendship order to President of the Supreme Court of Russia, Vyacheslav Mikhailovich Lebedev, in Hanoi on March 2nd.
The order was awarded to the Russian court leader in recognition of his contribution to fostering ties between the Vietnam Supreme People's Court and the Russian court later, helping strengthen the Vietnam-Russia friendship. Earlier, at the reception for the guests, President Sang welcomed the outcomes of the working session between the Supreme People's Court of Vietnam and the Supreme Court of Russia. He affirmed Vietnam wants to share experience with Russia in legal reform and judgment. For his part, Mikhailovich Lebedev said cooperation between the Vietnamese and Russian Supreme Courts have proved effective since the two sides inked their cooperation deal in 2008. He added both sides will continue to increase delegation exchanges and create conditions for provincial courts to strengthen cooperation.
Singaporean group Temasek has affirmed it wants to increase investments in Vietnam and seek partnerships in finance, high-tech, consumer goods and healthcare. Head of Strategic and Public Affairs of Temasek International, Chow Hock Guan, made the remark during a meeting with Deputy Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc on March 2nd. Temasek established a representative office in Vietnam in February 2005, with its investment list covering a range of fields such as natural resources, agro-fishery, information technology, and banking. The guest noted that Vietnam has paid attention and created favorable conditions for Temasek and other foreign investors, helping them operate productively and contribute to growing ties. Meanwhile, Deputy Prime Minister Phúc said Vietnam has been improving its investment and business environment, and the government is working to provide the most possible conditions for foreign investors. He suggested the group investing in mineral processing, food technology, and tourism. Dialogue and cooperation are the most effective ways to address human rights issues. Vietnamese Vice Foreign Minister Ha Kim Ngọc made the comment at the 31st session of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva on March 1st.
Speaking in front of nearly 100 delegates from countries and international organizations, Ngọc stressed the need for the Council to play a more positive role in implementing two recently approved human rights agreements, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. In the last year of its tenure in the Council, Vietnam will focus on these deals as well as measures to ensure the rights of people with disabilities. He highlighted Vietnam's efforts and achievements in preventing and promoting human rights, especially in the implementation of Millennium Development Goals. In spite of numerous challenges, Vietnam will do its utmost to help its people better enjoy their rights and the achievements of the national renewal cause. The country will continue to be a responsible member, contributing positively to UN officers on human rights, including the UN Human Rights Council and the UN Economic and Social Council.
An exhibition displaying maps and documentation on Hoàng Sa, Paracel, and Trường Sa, Spratly archipelagos opened in the northern port city of Hải Phòng on March 2nd.
The exhibition, titled Vietnam's Hoàng Sa, Trường Sa, Historical and Legal Evidence, is part of a public communication campaign to affirm Vietnam's sovereignty of the two archipelagos. On display are photos, documents, objects, and 100 maps, which have been collected by domestic and foreign researchers and scholars so far.
The documents displayed at the exhibition are collected not only from Vietnam but also from other countries, including China. They also affirm Trường Sa and Hoàng Sa are an integral part of Vietnam. The exhibition also helps better young people's understanding of the country's history.
The exhibition will run until March the 6th at the Haiphong Museum. It will be opened on Gat Hai Island from March 29th to April the 1st.
The 22nd ASEAN Economic Ministers Meeting Retreat and related events are taking place in Chiang Mai, Thailand. The Vietnamese delegation is headed by Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade Nguyen Cam Tu. The annual event is a chance for economic officials from all 10 ASEAN countries to discuss and agree on major orientations and priorities for the group's economic cooperation and successfully build the ASEAN Economic Community, which came into being on December 31, 2015. Discussions focus on transport infrastructure, ASEAN Single Window Mechanism, ASEAN's Rules of Origin, ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, and ASEAN Trade Repository. Programs to prepare the ground for the ASEAN economy's future, including support for small and medium-sized enterprises, trade promotion, and food safety control will also be deliberated. During the event, the officials are expected to intensify RCEP negotiations with 6 negotiators from China, the Republic of Korea, Japan, India, Australia, and New Zealand. Vietnam and the European Union will push ahead with the review of legal documents towards the signing and application of their bilateral free trade agreement in 2018. The information was released at a ceremony to publish the White Book on Trade and Investment in Vietnam in 2016. The event was co-organized in Hanoi on March 2nd by the European Chamber of Commerce and the Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry. According to participants, the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement will create a new wave of better quality investment from the EU into Vietnam, which must be supported by Vietnamese private businesses to boost the country's deep integration. The attractiveness of Vietnam to foreign investors is undeniable as the Southeast Asian country is incessantly improving its business climate. However, they noted that more reforms are needed to maintain the country's development. EU representatives suggested Vietnam develop human resources via vocational training, as well as increase productivity and improve capital distribution. As many as 5,584 companies were established in February, bringing the total number of startup businesses in the first 2 months of this year to 13,904, up 1% year-on-year.
The new firms registered a total capital of 113 trillion Vietnam dong, or $5.13 billion, up 45.8% year-on-year. Further, average registered capital of a new firm reached 9.6 billion Vietnam dong, up 44.9% year-on-year. The office estimated that these new firms created jobs for 198,500 local residents in this period, up 0.7% year-on-year. Last year, more than 94,750 businesses were established, with registered capital of 601.5 trillion Vietnam dong, up 26.6% and 39.1% over 2014 respectively. However, last year also saw more than 9,400 firms dissolved and shut down, inching down 0.4% year-on-year. According to a recently released survey, many businesses active in the processing and manufacturing industry have been more optimistic about prospects in 2016, thanks to improvements in the final months of last year. Nearly 41% of respondents said they hope for better prospects this year than seen in the final quarter of last year. Further, up to 91.1% of respondents were hopeful that the number of new orders will rise or remain stable this year.
Hanoi's Department of Transport has begun issuing and reissuing international driving permits for both Vietnamese and foreign residents. Let's take a look.
The issuance of international driving permits is based on information from the National Management Network managed by the department. Any driver violations will be updated to this system, and all management and supervision agencies can access the information. Those who want to obtain the permits should submit a valid motorbike or car driving license granted by Vietnam and an application form along with a fee of 135,000 dong, equivalent to $6 to the department. Foreigners must also include their permanent resident cards. The permits, valid for 3 years, will be issued in Vietnamese, English, French, Russian or Spanish, and allow the holders to drive vehicles in 73 countries that are members of the Vienna Convention on Road Traffic. The Vienna Convention on Road Traffic is an international treaty designed to facilitate international road traffic and increase road safety by establishing standardized traffic rules amongst the participating parties. The convention was ratified at the United Nations Economic and Social Council's Conference on Road Traffic in Vienna in 1968. It came into effect on May 21, 1977. Vietnam ratified the convention in August 2014.
Ho Chi Minh City and Gyeongsang-Buk-do Province of the Republic of Korea will co-host the World Cultural Expo in November 2017, a biannual exchange to introduce cultures of participating countries.
Visitors will have a chance to enjoy food, music performances, fashion shows, movies, and literature pieces, as well as enjoy trade and investment activities. The Expo will help promote Vietnamese culture and its land to international friends and attract more tourists from the Republic of Korea and other nations to Ho Chi Minh City. The event, which is funded by the Republic of Korea government, is expected to be held within the framework of the Asia-Pacific Economic Forum 2017.
The world's longest three-rope cable car connecting Mueang Hoa Valley and Phan Xipan Mountain in the northern province of Lao Cai has helped some 40,000 tourists conquer the so-called Roof of Indochina after 1 month of operation.
Vietnam's Sun Group began construction in November 2013 with consultancy from the world's leading cable car group, Doppemeyer Garaventa. It has the capacity to shuttle 2,000 passengers per hour, with each cabin accommodating up to 35 people. The system cuts the arduous two-way trek to the 3,143-meter summit, the highest mountain in Vietnam, Laos and Cambodia, to just 15 minutes. Along with a tremendous cable car system, the area has plush 5-star hotels, restaurants with local specialties, golf courses, and a shopping mall constructed at the Phan Xipan Legend tourism site. In addition, Vietnamese pagodas were also built near the cable car stations, which are built as attractive destinations for travelers who love spiritual tourism.
I love it here. It's been fantastic. I was a bit scared to begin with because I thought, it's going to be a big ride, but it was fantastic. Very safe and very friendly, everyone, and it's been fantastic. Steps are quite tricky to climb, but it's worth the view, definitely worth the view.
Security systems, healthcare, food safety and environmental sanitation have been a major focus in order to ensure excellent services for tourists. With the world's most modern three-rope system, the Phan Xipan cable car is tolerant of harsh weather conditions and guarantees complete safety for visitors. The system is expected to help boost the number of tourists to Sapa by 30 to 40% each year and reach 3 million by 2020. We will also become the main tourism service in Sapa in the next few years.
And that has wrapped up our news bulletin. Thank you for your attention. For more information, please log on to our website at www.vietnamplus.vn. We'll see you soon.